Hey boys and girls, so today we're going to be learning about cave art or Paleolithic art, and I thought this was the next step because we've learned about contemporary art and futuristic art, and I hope you guys are okay with my setup here. I just think it's a little bit easier so I don't have to move the phone around or the camera around. So I have a couple of examples here. I hope you guys are able to see. There's a lot of things in common with cave art. This one up here is one of the oldest ones found. So this is from like 30,000 years ago in France. And I hope you guys are able to see a lot of the similarities. So there's a lot of, animals shown, like hunting, people interacting with animals. Sometimes there's tools, definitely social gathering, So modern humans, or just humans in general, we are, as long as we've been alive, we've made art, okay? And we found ways. Earliest humans used like red, yellow ochre, charcoal, even like animal fat, okay? I know it sounds gross, but yeah, that's what they've done. So so these are my examples that I have, and this is what we are going to create today. Let me just move this out of the way. Okay, so this is what we're going to create, our own sort of cave art version. Okay, hope you guys are able to see. Yeah, perfect. So what I tried to show or incorporate was different neutral earthy tones, definitely animals, a couple of symbols, and a little bit of texture too. I hope you guys can see the sort of paint behind the horse over here. It's a lot of texture. It definitely doesn't look smooth. It looks a little bit rough, kind of like, in a cave. Imagine touching a cave. It's a little bit, rough. You feel, rocks and stuff like that. So that's what I wanted to incorporate. So for today's lesson, you are going to be needing sort of a brown tone construction paper, like this one. You'll be needing a white paper. This is a little bit smaller. Doesn't matter about the size as long as you have it in front of you. You'll also be needing maybe like a reddish orangey tone of paper. You'll be needing some brown paint, maybe a paintbrush, a pencil, and I have these are called compressed charcoals. Okay, so they're like they're about 3 different colors. There's white, there's black, and there's this like browny reddish tone. You guys can see. Okay, I was able to get these at Michael's. Okay, and if you don't have the reddish tone, that's fine. We could totally work with the black charcoal and the white charcoal. Okay. And what else? Oh, lastly, what I've used, you don't have to do this, but I've printed out a sheet of like symbolism of cave art. It's just gonna help me kind of figure out what kind of symbols to draw. See, like this spiral or like the hand. So you don't have to have it, but yeah, if you want to keep something like this handy, that'd be great. I've also printed this out, okay, to help me trace, just something easier. You don't have to print this out. You can just draw it by hand. Actually, I have 2. you can just use one. Okay, I think I'm gonna use this one for today. So like I said, you could just try to draw it by hand. You don't have to print it out if you don't have a printer at home. Just by like looking at a picture of a mammoth on your phone and then drawing it out, that's perfectly fine. So these are the items that I will be using today. Okay. All right, so we are going to start with step 1. Now with step 1, I'm going to be using a pencil and the printed mammoth. Okay, so just like the technique that I've used in a previous video, I'm going to trace over it with the pencil, and I'm pressing pretty hard. I'm using a little bit of pressure, and I think I might go over it twice if I have time. So I'm just going over, trying to be really careful not to go over the line, but you know, if you go over the line, that's totally fine, as long as you can see the image. Okay, and this particular image has a lot of lines, so I think I'm just gonna skip a few and just focus on the important ones, more like the outline of the mammoth. Okay. All right, almost done. Perfect. Okay, so I'm not gonna go over it twice. I think we could, well, let's see. Okay, we're gonna see if this works. So once you have this, take your reddish orange paper. You're going to turn this over, and I'm going to be using this just because it's what I have handy, but if you have maybe like a marker cap, that would be more useful. We're going to do the same technique that we've done before in a previous video, and that is where we hold the paper down, and with our other hand we're going to use a little bit of pressure to transfer that pencil onto the bottom paper being the orange. Okay, so you want to make sure to do these kind of these strokes and use a little bit of pressure. And make sure to hold the paper down with your left hand so it doesn't want to move around. Okay, let's see how that looks. Yeah, I could definitely see it. Not great, but I could see it. Okay, so I know it's gonna be hard for you guys to see on camera, but here in front of me, I could definitely see it. I'm just gonna try to go over it really quick. That. Okay. A little bit hard to see over here. Hi. Trunks. Okay. Just a little bit of hair. Oops. Okay. So there's my mammoth. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a few of these colors and just roughly color it in, okay, just to create a little bit of shadow and highlight. So let me show you the one I've done. Okay, so the horse over here, I've mainly used like the white, if you can see some of the white here, to highlight certain places. The black I hardly use, maybe to accentuate some lines, and then a little bit of the brownish, reddish, orangey tone to definitely outline. Okay, so that's how I'm gonna try to work with this mammoth. Okay, so hardly using the black at all, just for a little bit of shadow here and there. Okay, yeah. So when working with charcoal, you definitely are going to be using your fingers to blend, like so. And we're gonna cut this out, okay? So if you feel like you've gone over the line, totally fine, totally normal. We're gonna cut it out anyway, so don't even worry about it. The next color I'm gonna use is the browny orangey tone. And again, this one I mainly use to outline most of the animal. I go fairly quick. Okay, and lastly we have the white. The white I used to highlight. Okay. So a lot of where like the robustness of the animal would be, that's where you would color in. Okay, actually I'm going to use the black to accentuate the face a little bit. Okay, perfect. Almost done. So I'm just going to take my pinky and gently blend that in. Doesn't have to be perfect, something like that. Okay, so there's my mammoth. Now I'll just take some scissors. You'll need scissors, I forgot to mention. So I'll just take some scissors and cut out the mammoth. Oops. It's gonna be a little bit tricky here in the trunk, so I'm just gonna leave some space. If I had a little bit more time, then I can really carefully cut him out, but since I don't, I'm just gonna leave a little bit of space. But you guys can take your time with cutting your animal. Okay, so there is my mammoth done. And let me just remove all this extra scraps. Perfect. So that's what you should have in front of you. And now what we're going to do is put this animal to the side. We're gonna take our white paper, okay? It's gonna be a little bit hard to see, so I think I'm gonna use a black background. So you can see, yes, that's a little bit better, great. So for this part, you can either, since we're going to be using paint, you can either use like a plate to transfer a little bit of the paint onto a plate, or you could just do what I'm going to do. I'm going to use that same brush that I used, and I'm just going to crumble up a piece of paper like so. Paint a little paint onto one side like that. Okay, and then yeah, see how this side this is the clean side, I'm holding it. So this this step, I wanted to show texture, like I mentioned earlier, texture like from, you know, if you could imagine touching the inside of a cave, right? Texture like rocks and stuff like that. So we're gonna do this technique where we're just pressing on paint with a crumbled up piece of paper. And if you need to do it a second time, that's too much paint. Oh well, that's fine. Okay, let's test it out. Yeah, that's too much paint. See that? I'm gonna take some out and now focus the rest of the paper that's on the crumbled up paper and do that. Notice that on my white piece of paper, I only used a little bit. I didn't fill up the whole space. I'm using a little bit, okay? So that's all you'll need. See that? I didn't want to go too dark or too overboard. So now we don't need this. You can throw it away. I'm gonna take my scissors again, and you could wait for this to dry. I'm not, just because I want to show you the next step. I'm pretty excited. So I'm just going to cut out this part, and I'm gonna do it like in a random shape, nothing specific, okay? Something like that. Okay, just a random shape, a regular shape, I should say. Okay, so now what we're going to do, we're done with this step. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take our brown construction paper, and we're gonna glue a couple of these things onto our paper. So you guys should wait for your paper to dry. Again, I'm not, but I didn't use that much paint, so it'll dry quickly. See that? Just a little bit. And I think I'm gonna do this way. So I'm gluing on that paper in the middle of my brown paper. And now I'm gonna glue on my animal on top of it, okay? So I'm using a glue stick for this. You can use a glue bottle if that's what you have at home. I think I'm gonna do that. Yeah, a little bit of a, you know, diagonal, like so, very gently pressing it on. Okay, so we're almost done. We just need a couple of different symbols to complete our cave art. Let me just put a couple of these things away. Okay, so like I mentioned, I printed this out earlier, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a couple of different colors of my compressed charcoal and just draw them randomly around my animal, okay? And I'm going to use different colors. Okay, So let me see. So, a lot of these are just really simple lines, something like that, you know, like that. The hand, that one's really fun. You could even put your hand like that and then just, you know, trace over your hand and smudge. That would look really nice. I'm going to be using maybe this symbol. Okay, so after you've drawn a few of these, I'm going to take my pinky and just very, very lightly kind of smudge a couple of these, because we don't want it to look too neat. Okay, we want it to look a little bit dirty. If you have time, you can even trace out your own symbol and cut it out. Let's say maybe something easier like a triangle, you know, you could take a piece of paper, draw a triangle and cut it out. And then what you could do, this is a really fun trick, you can use it as a stencil. So I'm going to take my black charcoal. I'm holding this down with my left hand. I'm sort of, because I don't want the stencil to move too much, so I'm just kind of pressing on the charcoal a little bit, being very careful not to move the spiral. I think I chose the most difficult shape. That's okay. If it looks messy, that's gonna be even better. Okay, so before I remove it, I'm gonna take my fingers and just smudge out that charcoal. Okay, and now I'm going to remove it, and that's what you get. See that? That's a really fun technique. And now since I have all this extra charcoal on my fingers, I'm just going to rub some of it off around my drawing. Okay, so we're almost done. From here, all you're going to do is rip your construction paper, just the edges, like so. Careful, protect the symbols that you guys made, okay? So I'm using sort of my palm to guide the tears around. Okay. All right, and I'm done. That's my cave art. Okay, so that's my mammoth, and this is the horse. Okay, hope you guys enjoyed your lesson. This is really, really fun. Yeah, I will see you next time with a new project. Okay, bye-bye.